No, we are not done with Squid Game on this channel just yet. With Smash Bros being as big of a crossover as it is, one video simply isn't enough to cover it. We looked at how the heroes would do in the Squid Game, but what about the villains? Which of these video game baddies would walk away with the prize money, and which ones would end up losing their lives early? I'm Kifinosi with Wicked Binge, and today we're going to figure out which Smash Bros villain would survive the Squid Game. Unlike with the heroes list, we won't need to narrow down much of anything since there are fewer villains to go around. The playable villains are Bowser, Ganondorf, Mewtwo, Meta Knight, King Dedede, Wolf, Wario, Rob, Bowser Jr., Larry, Morton, Wendy, Iggy, Roy, Lemmy, Ludwig, Dark Pit, King K. Rool, Ridley, Dark Samus, Piranha Plant, Sephiroth, Zombie, Enderman, and Kazuya. But for the sake of consistency, we'll also add Porky, Metalface, Marks, Grey Fox, and the Black Knight as well. Additionally, much like the previous list, these villains will come into this game with no weapons nor special powers whatsoever. No breath attacks, no flying, no psychic powers, no teleportation, nothing. Additionally, we'll also be shrinking Ridley down to a more reasonable size and stripping Porky and Metalface of their respective mech suits to make this list as balanced as possible. With that out of the way, let's get started with the first of many rounds, Red Light, Green Light. In this game, it comes down to two things, the ability to follow instructions and the ability to maintain calm under pressure. In order to pass this round, a character has to be able to listen to instructions and keep a level head once the bodies start to hit the floor. If they can't, then they're surely going to meet their end here. The standouts in this game include Mewtwo, who's not only extremely level-headed, but also intelligent and calculative enough to predict when the red light is going to be called. Rob is a robot, so he's basically a shoo-in in terms of following instructions and maintaining calmness. Sephiroth is also very level-headed and would be unperturbed about what goes on around him. The Enderman is all about freezing up when making eye contact, so it naturally gets a pass without even teleporting. And Grey Fox is also a calm and calculating individual who would be able to make it through fairly easily. The first one to die here would have to be King K. Rool. Not only is he fairly deranged, but K. Rool also doesn't take orders from anyone, meaning that it's highly unlikely that he would make it here. Besides, even if he did, he probably wouldn't make it past the next round anyway. The Minecraft zombie also has to go here. It's a fairly brainless mob and therefore it wouldn't be able to follow the rules of the game, earning itself a quick bullet. Much like in our last video, Kazuya dies here once again. Like before, this is because his ego is so overwhelmingly massive that he simply cannot accept anyone other than himself being in charge. As a result, Kazuya would be unable to follow instructions and would certainly die pretty much immediately. We'd also have to see Porky dying here as well. He's already unwilling to listen to instructions, often breaking rules just for fun, but Porky would also be likely to get greedy and try to cheat, getting himself killed in the process. Finally, we have to eliminate Mumkar, aka Metalface. Being extremely chaotic and unhinged, Mumkar isn't one to take orders from anybody, and without the Metalface mech to save him, he might just get himself killed before the game even starts. With 5 of our original 30 down right out of the gate, we move on to our Honeycomb round. The Honeycomb challenge requires both the precision and dexterity required to trace the shape of the candy, as well as the patience to slowly and surely cut out said candy without breaking it. Without both of these traits, characters won't make it past this one. Those who would pass this game include Bowser, who, despite his big, meaty claws, is shown to be surprisingly dexterous with them. That, coupled with his incredible patience, make him quite the dark horse in this game. Meta Knight is also incredibly patient and has a steady hand to be able to cut the candy shape fairly easily. Sephiroth is one of the most patient characters we've seen yet, meaning that he can easily pass this one. And once again, also Grey Fox has incredible patience and one of the steadiest hands in the room, making him a shoo-in for this game. Now, despite acing the previous game, Rob, the Ancient Minister, falls here. While being a robot would usually be an advantage, his inflexible arms do not provide the full range of motion necessary to trace out the shape. Additionally, Rob's hands would be unable to hold both the candy and the pin needed to cut out the shape, so he'd be physically incapable of doing this challenge. The first of our Koopalings to go would have to be Roy. With most of our unstable characters dying in the last round, Roy is the only character to die here due to his impatience. He's also quick to anger too, meaning that it's highly likely that he would break the candy out of frustration before he could cut it out. We also have to eliminate Dark Samus. This is because she only has one arm, and it's her non-dominant arm at that. While Samus was able to participate without her power suit, Dark Samus is her power suit, meaning we can't separate it from her, and that cannon arm is not helping her here. The Piranha Plant is the next one on our chopping block. Having only leaves for arms, this botanical beast simply cannot possibly cut out the candy as needed. Plant Gang, be damned. Finally, we also have to lose the Enderman in this game. Much like with Rob, the Enderman lacks both the dexterity and the full range of motion needed in order to trace out the shape, let alone cut it out. With a mere 20 villains left, we move on next to the most fitting game for this group, the Midnight Brawl. The Midnight Brawl isn't an official game, taking place between rounds due to tension and a lack of resources. In this free-for-all smash, one needs either the strength and skill necessary to take on multiple foes at once, or they've got to have the intelligence and cleverness to be able to hide and wait it out. Obviously, Bowser survives not only due to his massive strength, but also his shell providing a handy defense. Along with his shell, he would have a huge target on his back, but he's strong enough to hold off the waves. Ganondorf is also incredibly strong, so he would also be able to hold his own in a fight. Mewtwo is strong as well, but he's also the smartest one in the room, so whether he stands and fights or tries to hide, he's guaranteed to survive. Similarly, Ridley is also a solid combination of brains and brawn, so he makes it out alive. Marx is incredibly crafty, which, combined with his small body being easy to hide, would allow him to easily avoid the battle. Finally, Zelgius, the Black Knight, is both strong enough and experienced enough with fighting off multiple foes to be able to survive this one easily. By process of elimination, King Dedede has to go here. While he may be strong in general, Dedede just doesn't stack up to the powerhouses left in this game. Add that on to his large size, making hiding borderline impossible for him, and he's just not making it out of this one. We also have to see Bowser Jr. die here. With his father being such a huge threat in this game, it's likely that Jr. would have a pretty big target on his back as well, preventing him from hiding easily. Add on to the fact that he's not nearly as strong as his father, and he doesn't stand a chance. The next Koopaling, Larry, also dies here. As the second smallest Koopaling, Larry simply doesn't have the strength needed to survive. He might be able to hide, but we don't think he's quite smart enough to do so effectively. And if Larry can't hack it, then Lemmy definitely doesn't have a chance either. Being even weaker and less intelligent, Lemmy is too reliant on his magical powers to be an effective fighter on his own, making this an even easier choice. With a little over half of our original 30 left after the brawl, we move on next to the Tug of War. While we won't be assigning characters to specific teams, this is still a team game. This means that characters need to be able to work on a team, as well as be strong enough to pull the rope better than the other team. If a character is strong but can't work on a team, then their survivability goes down significantly, especially with a cast that is as strong as this. Once again, Bowser passes this game with flying colors. Not only is he strong enough to hard carry his team, but he's also a surprisingly good team player, so he easily makes it through. Meta Knight is an excellent team player who is surprisingly strong for his small size, so he gets a pass as well. Wolf is also great at working on a team, and is plenty strong enough to be able to lead his team to victory. Ridley has incredible strength and some surprisingly decent team working skills, so he gets a pass on this one. Finally, the Black Knight also has both the strength and ability to work on a team to be able to make it through this one. Surprisingly, there aren't that many characters who die here. The first one to go would be Wendy. This is because Wendy has both the lowest strength and is the least likely to work in the team among the Koopalings due to her pride. Because of this, she gets eliminated here mainly by process of elimination. Sadly, we have to see Dark Pit die here as well. While he's able to work with others sometimes, these are the exceptions that prove the rule, as Dark Pit is generally a loner by default. Add on to the fact that he's only got average strength and this fallen angel falls again here. Finally, we also have to eliminate Sephiroth, much to our surprise. We thought that Sephiroth was gonna walk away with the whole game due to his overpowered skill set, even without any special weapons nor powers. However, he absolutely refuses to work in a team, which is basically a death sentence in this challenge. For that sole reason, we end up losing both of our angels in one fell swoop. With 13 characters left, we move on to the infamous Marbles round. The Marbles game rewards one thing above all else: the ability to manipulate your opponent into losing their marbles. If a character is good at manipulation, or at the very least is able to avoid being manipulated, then they'll be able to make it through this one. Standouts in this game include Mewtwo, who is both smart enough and manipulative enough to be able to pass this one without psychic powers. Ridley's also incredibly crafty and would be difficult to manipulate, so he gets through this one easily. And Marx is a master manipulator who would have no problems passing this game. the first character to die here would have to be Meta Knight. While it would be difficult to manipulate him, Meta Knight is far too honorable to try to manipulate others himself, and in a game like this, that's simply not enough. We also have to see Wolf go down here as well. While he's a bit more manipulative, he's also fairly easy to manipulate himself, as evidenced by his willingness to take in a known traitor onto his team. Because of this, the Merciless Mercenary just can't go any further. The next Koopaling to go would have to be Morton. In addition to being too straightforward, Morton is certainly no Rhodes Scholar, to say the least. We feel like this makes him the easiest character to trick in the entire remaining cast, which would earn him a quick death. Lastly, we're also going to eliminate Iggy from our list. While he might be able to manipulate others, we feel like Iggy's eccentric behavior might actually be more of a hindrance than a help here. Because of this, he's more likely to get tricked himself before he can trick his opponent. Alright, we've reached our top 9 as we move on to the Glass Stepping Stones. And here, we actually run into a bit of a problem. Normally when we cover this round, what makes a character more likely to survive is the humility to choose a lower number in order to go later than the others, barring the niche possibility of inhuman skill and or luck. However, this time around with this particular cast of characters, it's actually the opposite that's true. This is pretty much due exclusively to Bowser, who, for the record, absolutely dies here. See, while Bowser does have a large enough ego to choose one of the first numbers, we feel that he would still manage to die here even if he were to go dead last, simply due to his weight. Bowser has been known to fall through solid floors before. A reflectively thin panel of glass isn't gonna hold him up for anything, no matter how tempered it may be. What's more, while Bowser has a large ego, it isn't the largest, meaning he's almost guaranteed to take out a panel of reinforced glass if he doesn't just take the whole bridge down with him. This means that not only is Bowser dead, but so is every character behind him, since they would just be unable to cross the gap he creates. Therefore, the only characters who can pass this version of the game are those who have a bigger ego than Bowser who go before him, and who also have the ability to discern the reinforced glass from the regular glass. With all that in mind, let's see what's going on with our remaining villains. Ganondorf has enough of an ego, but isn't discerning enough to tell the glass apart. Mewtwo would be the most likely to identify the reinforced glass, but doesn't have the ego needed to go before Bowser. Wario had the biggest ego last time, but he just can't compete with the egomaniacs in this game. Ludwig definitely doesn't have a bigger ego than his boss by that very definition. Ridley has the ego, but then again doesn't have the keen eye to discern the correct glass. Marx does have an ego big enough, but is also crafty enough to pick a lower number in order to keep a low profile. Bad idea this time. Gray Fox doesn't have enough of an ego due to being more of an underling than a master. And the Black Knight has an ego comparable to Bowser's, but regardless still lacks the ability to tell the tempered glass from the normal glass. So with all that said, the characters moving on to the final round are none of them. None of these villains have the particular set of skills necessary to win this game under these strange circumstances, meaning that this Squid Game would end without a winner. Now, while we could just end it there, we feel like that's a bit too anticlimactic having gone this far, so let's try to find a workaround. Let's assume that one of the other characters pulls a Deoxys and eliminates Bowser before he has the chance to destroy the bridge. This puts the game back on track with our usual criteria, so we'll pick up here. Since we've already covered each character and not much changes here, let's just jump straight into the final two. Without factoring in the Bowser problem, the characters most likely to survive the Glass Stepping Stones are Mewtwo and Marx. Mewtwo survives since his high intelligence and keen eye makes him one of the few characters who would be able to tell the reinforced glass from the regular stuff. And Marx is enough of a con artist to intentionally choose a low number to keep himself from garnering attention, allowing him to slip over to the finish line undetected. And with these two, we move on to the final round, that being the titular Squid Game. This is one of the simplest and easiest games to identify. Winning the Squid Game comes down to your skills in hand-to-hand combat. While knowing the rules of the game helps, realistically, all that really matters is the strength and skill needed to beat your opponent. And yeah, this one is pretty obvious. The loser of this Squid Game is none other than Marx. While he'd been able to make it this far due to his intelligence and craftiness, in combat, he's pretty much useless without his powers. Mewtwo is at least physically strong without his psychic abilities, but Marx is small, weak, and not at all competent on his own, which means he just doesn't stand a chance here. And just like that, Mewtwo wins the Squid Game. and we're sure he'll appreciate all the prize money living as a wild animal in the depths of the Cerulean Cave. Yes, we're aware of the irony, but need we remind you that this was an alternate ending? Seeing as how nobody was supposed to win this one since Bowser literally breaks the game, having the winner be a character who couldn't care less for the prize is perhaps the most fitting end to what may just be the strangest Squid Game we've ever hypothesized. For now. But what do you think? Do you agree with our list? If you need a one-up, make sure to check out more of our gaming videos and binge our Squid Game playlist, especially our Smash Brothers Heroes Squid Game video if you haven't seen that one yet. Thanks for watching.